The sun was setting over the city skyline, casting a golden glow through the massive glass windows of the Grandeur Hotel's lobby. Lisa had been on her feet for nearly 8 hours already, but she kept her professional smile firmly in place. After 3 years working the front desk at one of the most expensive hotels in the city, she knew how to spot important people from a mile away. The marble-floored lobby was buzzing with activity. A group of businessmen in expensive suits checked in for a conference. A famous actress hid behind oversized sunglasses while her assistant handled the details, and wealthy tourists admired the crystal chandelier that hung like a frozen waterfall from the ceiling. Lisa prided herself on her attention to detail. She knew which guests preferred corner rooms, who needed extra pillows without asking, and most importantly, who deserved the red carpet treatment. Her manager had praised her just last week for always maintaining the hotel's exclusive image. "We cater to a certain type of client," he had reminded the staff during their morning meeting. "Our guests expect everyone here to look and act the part." When the automatic doors slid open at 4:45 p.m., Lisa barely glanced up from her computer. But something about the new arrival made her do a double take. A tall, broad-shouldered man strolled into the lobby with the relaxed confidence of someone who felt at home wherever they went. But that's where the similarities to their usual guests ended. Instead of designer clothes, he wore an oversized black hoodie with some faded sports logo, baggy basketball shorts that hung past his knees, and chunky sneakers that had definitely seen better days. A diamond-studded watch flashed on his wrist, probably fake, Lisa thought. He carried no luggage, not even a small overnight bag. No driver or assistant accompanied him. He simply walked straight toward the front desk, pulling earbuds out as he approached. Lisa straightened her blazer and put on her dealing with difficult people smile, tight-lipped and not quite reaching her eyes. 2 of her co-workers, Tom and Priya, were busy with other guests, but she noticed them glancing curiously at the newcomer. "Welcome to Grandeur Hotel. How can I help you?" Lisa asked, her tone professional but cooler than the one she used with the businessman just minutes earlier. The man smiled broadly, revealing a perfect set of white teeth. "Hey there, I'm checking in. The name's Big Shaq." Lisa blinked. Did he just say Big Shaq, like that was supposed to mean something? She typed the name into her system, already knowing no such reservation would appear. "I don't see any reservation under that name, sir." Her emphasis on "sir" carried just a hint of doubt. "That's cool. Should be under Harrison, Shaquille Harrison." He leaned casually against the marble counter, seemingly unbothered. Lisa typed again, her manicured nails clicking against the keyboard. Her system showed no Harrison either. But what really made her raise an eyebrow was his next statement. "I'll be needing access to the presidential suite." Lisa couldn't help the small, disbelieving laugh that escaped her lips. The presidential suite cost more per night than she made in a month. It was reserved for actual presidents, royal family members, and A-list celebrities, not someone who looked like they'd wandered in from the basketball court. "The presidential suite," she repeated, not bothering to hide the skepticism in her voice. "I'm afraid that suite is only available for our VIP guests." She looked him up and down quickly. "Perhaps I could interest you in one of our standard rooms instead. If you have a valid ID and credit card, of course." The man raised his eyebrows slightly but kept his easy smile. "Nah, it's got to be the presidential suite. Maybe check again? Or your manager might know about my booking." Lisa felt a flicker of annoyance. The lobby was busy, she didn't have time for this game, and she certainly didn't appreciate being told how to do her job by someone who clearly didn't belong here. Little did she know, her next words would change the course of her career forever. Lisa tapped her fingernails on the polished marble countertop, looking at the man with growing irritation. The busy lobby had quieted down just enough that nearby guests could hear their conversation. A couple waiting for check-in moved closer, not even trying to hide their curiosity. "Sir," she said, raising her voice slightly, "as I've explained, we have no reservation under Big Shaq or Harrison, and the presidential suite is currently unavailable to walk-in guests." She emphasized the words walk-in while glancing meaningfully at his casual outfit. The man simply smiled. "Could you call Roger upstairs? He'll clear this up." Lisa let out an exaggerated sigh. "There's no Roger who works here. She was getting tired of this game. This wasn't the first time someone had tried to talk their way into the hotel without proper credentials. "Roger Williamson, your head of hotel operations," he asked, still calm. A few people in the lobby had stopped to watch the increasingly uncomfortable exchange. Lisa noticed Tom and Pryor exchanging glances behind her. Instead of checking if there was indeed a Roger Williamson in management, Lisa decided to make an example of this man. "Listen here, Big Shaq," she said, making air quotes with her fingers. "I don't know who you think you are, but this is the Grandeur Hotel. We have celebrities, business leaders, and actual important people staying here." Her voice carried across the now hushed lobby. Not everyone can just walk in wearing gym clothes and demand our best suite. A few guests snickered. An elderly woman in expensive jewelry nodded in approval at Lisa. A businessman on a nearby couch looked up from his laptop and smirked. The man's expression remained neutral, though something shifted in his eyes. "Maybe I should wait for your manager." "My manager would say exactly the same thing," Lisa replied, straightening her blazer. "Look around you. Do you see anyone else dressed like they're heading to a pickup basketball game? The rooms here start at $500 a night. The presidential suite is $15,000 per night." She spoke slowly as if explaining something to a child. The man glanced down at his clothes, then back at Lisa. "I'd get it. The outfit threw you off." "The outfit?" Lisa laughed, gaining confidence from the supportive looks of several onlookers. "Sir, even if you changed into a suit, you'd need a reservation and valid payment method. We don't just hand keys to anyone claiming to be important." More guests had gathered to watch the scene unfold. A woman whispered to her husband. Two bellhops stopped pretending to arrange luggage and openly stared. "You know what?" Lisa continued, warming to her audience. "I've worked here for 3 years. I've checked in movie stars, politicians, and actual athletes, real ones, not people who just call themselves big whatever. And not one of them showed up without a reservation, without luggage, demanding our most expensive suite." The man reached into his pocket, and Lisa tensed up. But he simply pulled out his phone. "I'm just going to make a quick call," he said calmly. "Of course," Lisa said with mock politeness. "The coffee shop across the street might have room for you while you figure out your situation." This earned a few more chuckles from the growing audience. Lisa felt a rush of satisfaction. She'd handled difficult people before, but putting this imposter in his place in front of everyone felt particularly rewarding. The man stepped aside to make his call, speaking quietly into his phone. Lisa turned to the next guests in line with a smile that said, "Can you believe some people?" What she didn't notice was how quickly Pryor's expression changed from amusement to alarm when she glanced at her computer screen. She didn't see Tom suddenly straightening his tie and smoothing his hair. And she certainly missed the hotel's assistant manager, Chen, rushing from the back office with a look of absolute panic on his face. Lisa was still basking in her public victory when she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned, ready to continue her workday, completely unaware that everything was about to change. Lisa turned around to find Chen, the assistant manager, standing right behind her. His normally calm face looked unusually pale, and tiny beads of sweat had formed along his hairline despite the lobby's perfect air conditioning. "Lisa," he whispered urgently, "what are you doing?" "Just handling a situation with someone who thinks he can." "Stop talking," Chen interrupted, something he'd never done before. "That's Shaquille Harrison." Lisa blinked. "Who?" Chen looked at her like she'd lost her mind. "Shaquille Harrison, former NBA star, owner of 7 tech companies. The man who just bought a controlling stake in our entire hotel chain." The words hit Lisa like a bucket of ice water. Her stomach dropped so fast she felt dizzy. "What? No, that can't be right. He's..." She glanced over at the man in the hoodie, who was still calmly talking on his phone. "Wearing casual clothes?" "Yeah, that's kind of his thing," Chen said. "Everyone in upper management knows who he is. There was a memo last week about his surprise visits to various properties." "I never got any memo," Lisa said weakly. "It went to management only because they wanted his visits to be authentic, to see how staff naturally treat guests." Chen ran a hand through his hair. "Oh God, this is bad." Before Lisa could process this information, the hotel's general manager, Robert Wilson, burst through the staff door. In his 15 years at the grandeur, Lisa had never seen him move faster than a dignified walk. Now he was practically running across the lobby. "Mr. Harrison," Robert called out, his voice booming with warmth. "Welcome to our hotel. I apologize for any confusion at the front desk." The man in the hoodie, Mr. Harrison, ended his call and turned. His face broke into a genuine smile as he shook Robert's hand. "Bob, good to see you. No worries about the mix-up." Lisa stood frozen behind the counter, suddenly aware of all the people still watching, the same audience that had just witnessed her public takedown of a man who, apparently, could fire everyone in the building with a single phone call. Pryor slid next to her and whispered, "Remember that email about the new owner planning to visit properties incognito to evaluate genuine customer service? The one you said was probably just a rumor." Lisa felt her face burning. She vaguely remembered dismissing that email, thinking it was just another corporate myth. Robert was now leading Mr. Harrison toward the front desk, one hand on his back in a gesture of respect. "I see you've already met some of our staff," he said, glancing nervously at Lisa. "Yes, had quite the welcome," Mr. Harrison replied, his tone unreadable. Lisa couldn't tell if he was angry. His face remained calm, but the memory of every word she'd said was replaying in her mind like a horror movie. "Lisa is one of our most experienced front desk staff," Robert said, clearly struggling to find something positive to say. Mr. Harrison nodded. "Lisa and I had an interesting conversation about hotel policies and appearance." His eyes met hers, and Lisa felt like she might actually faint. Very educational. "Sir, I'm so sorry I didn't," Lisa began, but Chen supplely stepped on her foot to silence her. "Mr. Harrison, your suite is ready," Robert continued smoothly. "I'll personally escort you up. Your luggage arrived earlier as planned." So there had been a reservation, Lisa realized, just not one she had access to in the regular system. As Robert led Mr. Harrison toward the private elevator, the hotel owner paused and turned back. "Lisa, right? I look forward to continuing our conversation soon." The way he said it wasn't threatening, but it wasn't reassuring either. It was a simple statement of fact. They would be talking again. Once the elevator doors closed, the lobby burst into hushed conversations. Guests who had witnessed the scene were already spreading the word, pointing at Lisa with barely concealed delight at the drama. Tom approached with wide eyes. "That was the new owner. The one you just called." "Don't," Lisa cut him off. "Please don't repeat what I said." Chen gave her a look that mixed pity with something else. Concern, perhaps, for his own job. "Lisa, take your break now. Then come to the office. We need to talk about what happens next." As Lisa walked to the back room on shaky legs, she knew one thing for certain. Her career would never be the same after today. Lisa sat in the staff break room, her untouched coffee growing cold. Her hands were still shaking. 20 minutes had passed since the horrible revelation, but it felt like hours. The memory of her smug smile as she humiliated Mr. Harrison played on repeat in her mind. With each replay, she noticed another guest who had witnessed her career-ending mistake. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate. "How's work?" Such a simple question. How could she even begin to answer it? The door swung open and Prina walked in. The usual chatter and jokes between them were gone. Prina just gave her a small, sad smile before grabbing a water bottle from the fridge. "Everyone's talking about it, aren't they?" Lisa asked quietly. Prina hesitated, then nodded. "It's spreading pretty fast. Someone posted about it on the employee chat group." "Great," Lisa muttered. "So everyone knows I insulted the hotel's owner to his face." If it helps, most people are just shocked. Nobody expected him to show up like that. Pryor sat down across from her. "Chen told us there was a company-wide email about Mr. Harrison doing surprise visits, but it went to managers only." "That doesn't help me much now," Lisa said, rubbing her temples. The headache that had started at the front desk was now pounding behind her eyes. The break room door opened again, and Tom poked his head in. "Lisa, Chen wants you in the office." His usual joking tone was nowhere to be found. Lisa stood up, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "Well, I guess this is it." "Good luck," Pryor whispered. The walk to the manager's office felt like the longest journey of Lisa's life. Hotel staff stopped talking when she passed. A housekeeper who normally greeted her warmly suddenly found the carpet fascinating. Even the regular maintenance guy, Pete, who joked with everyone, just gave her a sympathetic nod. Chen was waiting outside his office door, checking his watch. "There you are. Look, before we go in," he lowered his voice. "Mr. Harrison is on a call with the regional director right now." "About you." Lisa's stomach twisted. "Am I fired?" "I honestly don't know," Chen replied. "But whatever happens in there, just be humble. No excuses." He knocked on the door, then opened it without waiting for a response. Robert Wilson was sitting at his desk, looking more stressed than Lisa had ever seen him. Mr. Harrison wasn't there. "Sit down, Lisa," Robert said, gesturing to the chair in front of his desk. Lisa sat, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "Sir, I want to apologize for my behavior. I had no idea." Robert held up his hand. "Let me speak first. What happened today was unacceptable. Not because Mr. Harrison is our boss, but because that's not how we treat any guest at this hotel, regardless of how they're dressed." Lisa nodded, her cheeks burning with shame. "Mr. Harrison has finished his call," Robert continued. "As you can imagine, this incident has created quite a situation. Several guests have already posted about it online." Lisa closed her eyes briefly. Of course they had. Public humiliation wasn't enough. Now it would live forever on the internet. "Normally, this would be grounds for immediate termination," Robert said, his voice flat. "Here it comes," Lisa thought. 3 years of work gone because of one terrible mistake. However, Robert continued, "Mr. Harrison has specifically requested that we hold off on any personnel decisions until tomorrow. He wants to speak with you personally in the morning." Lisa's head snapped up. "He wants to talk to me. Why?" "I don't know," Robert admitted, "but I suggest you use tonight to think very carefully about what you'll say to him." Chen, who had been standing silently by the door, spoke up. "What time should she come in tomorrow?" 9 a.m. "Presidential suite," Robert replied. "And Lisa? Wear your full uniform. This isn't a casual meeting." Lisa nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "You're dismissed for today," Robert said. "Chen will cover the rest of your shift." Lisa stood on wobbly legs. "Thank you for not firing me on the spot." "That's not my decision anymore," Robert said quietly. "It's his." As Lisa gathered her things from her locker, the weight of uncertainty pressed down on her. Tomorrow, she would face the man she had humiliated. What could he possibly want to say to her? More importantly, what could she possibly say to him that would make any difference now? Lisa barely slept that night. She tossed and turned, rehearsing apologies in her head that all seemed pathetically inadequate. By the time her alarm went off at 6:30 a.m., she had dark circles under her eyes that even her best concealer couldn't fully hide. She spent extra time on her uniform, pressing her blazer twice, polishing her name tag until it gleamed, checking every hair was in place. If this was going to be her last day at the Grandeur Hotel, at least she'd look professional on her way out. The morning staff gave her curious looks as she entered through the employee entrance. Word had clearly spread overnight. The overnight receptionist, Raj, who usually chatted with her during shift change, just gave her a quick nod before hurrying away. It stung more than Lisa expected. At precisely 8:55 a.m., she stood outside the presidential suite, gathering her courage. The hallway was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. She checked her watch, 8:57. Taking a deep breath, she knocked on the door. "Come in," called a deep voice from inside. Lisa opened the door and stepped into the presidential suite. She'd only been in here a few times for training and always found it impressive. The morning sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a spacious living area with plush furniture and tasteful artwork. Mr. Harrison was sitting at the dining table, dressed much like yesterday, basketball shorts and a plain t-shirt, though these looked fresh. Several tablets and papers were spread in front of him. He looked up when she entered and gestured to the chair across from him. "Good morning, Lisa. Thanks for coming. Want some coffee?" The casual greeting caught her off guard. She'd expected anger, coldness, or at least formality. "No thank you, sir," she managed to say, her voice surprisingly steady as she sat down. "Mind if I eat while we talk?" "Been up since 5 on calls with Tokyo," he said, pulling a plate of breakfast closer. "Of course not, sir," Lisa replied, her hands firmly clasped in her lap to keep them from shaking. Mr. Harrison studied her for a moment, then set down his fork. "Let's address the elephant in the room. Yesterday wasn't great." Lisa nodded, swallowing hard. "Mr. Harrison, I want to apologize for my behavior. It was completely unprofessional and disrespectful. There's no excuse for how I treated you, and I'm truly sorry." He listened quietly, his expression neutral. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "You know, when I was playing basketball, I got used to being recognized everywhere. Couldn't buy groceries without someone asking for an autograph." He glanced out the window. "After I retired and started my businesses, I noticed something interesting. When I wore suits to meetings, everyone treated me one way. When I dressed casually, like this," he gestured to his clothes, "I saw a whole different side of people." Lisa shifted uncomfortably, unsure where this was going. "So I started doing it on purpose," he continued. "Visiting my companies dressed down. It tells me more about a place in 10 minutes than a week of formal reports." "And our hotel failed your test," Lisa said quietly. Mr. Harrison surprised her with a small smile. "Actually, the hotel did okay. The bellhop offered to help me with my non-existent bags. The bartender was friendly when I asked about local beers. The doorman didn't hesitate to call me a cab." He paused. "The front desk, though." Lisa felt her face burning again. "I was the problem." "Here's what I'm curious about." Mr. Harrison leaned forward. "Why did you react that way? And don't just tell me what you think I want to hear." Lisa took a deep breath. She could give the safe answer. Blame it on being busy. Claim it was a misunderstanding. But something in his direct gaze made her decide to be honest. "I judged you by your clothes," she admitted. "We get a lot of people trying to sneak into the hotel or scam free stuff. When you asked for the presidential suite dressed like that, with no reservation I could see, I made assumptions." She paused. "But that's not the whole truth. I also wanted to show off a little. To prove I belonged here among all these wealthy people by keeping out someone I thought didn't." The truth hung in the air between them. Lisa held her breath, waiting for the axe to fall. Instead, Mr. Harrison nodded slowly. "That's probably the most honest answer I've gotten in weeks." Mr. Harrison stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city skyline. Lisa remained seated, her future hanging in the balance. The silence stretched between them until he finally turned back to her. "I grew up poor," he said simply. "Single mom, 3 jobs, hand-me-down clothes. Even after I made it to the pros, people would look at me sideways when I walked into fancy places." He shrugged. "Money changes how people see you, but I never forgot those looks." Lisa nodded, unsure what to say. "When I started buying businesses, I noticed something funny. The employees always put on a show when the owner visited. Everything perfect, everyone smiling." He walked back to the table. "But that doesn't show me how things really work, how customers are really treated." "So you show up looking like a regular person," Lisa said, understanding dawning. "Exactly. And most places I see the same thing. Staff are friendlier to the guests in expensive suits. They make assumptions." He sat back down. "What happened yesterday? That happens to regular people every day. They just don't have the power to do anything about it." Lisa felt a twist of shame. How many other guests had she judged and treated differently based on their appearance? "I'm going to ask you something," Mr. Harrison said, "and I want an honest answer. If you were in my position, what would you do with an employee who did what you did?" Lisa took a deep breath. This felt like a test, but she decided to stick with honesty. "If it were me, I'd probably fire them." Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow. "Just like that?" "Well, it reflects poorly on the hotel. It could damage our reputation, especially if guests shared it online. And," she hesitated, "it shows poor judgment." "That's fair," he nodded. "So you think you should be fired?" Lisa met his eyes. "I don't want to be fired. I love this job, and I'm good at it most of the time. But I understand if that's your decision." Mr. Harrison tapped his fingers on the table thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about this all night, and I've come up with 2 options for you." Lisa held her breath. "Option 1. You leave the grandeur with 2 months' salary as severance and a decent reference. You find another job, and we both move on." That was more generous than she'd expected. And option 2. That's more complicated. Mr. Harrison leaned forward. The Grandeur Hotel chain has 27 locations. Each one promises luxury and exceptional service. But what I saw yesterday made me wonder how many other employees judge people the way you did. Probably more than would admit it, Lisa said quietly. Exactly. So here's option 2. You help me fix it. Lisa blinked in confusion. Fix it? How? I'm creating a new position, customer experience trainer. Someone who works directly with staff at all our hotels to help them understand that real service means treating everyone with respect, regardless of appearance. He slid a folder across the table. The job would require travel to all our locations. You'd work with HR to develop training programs. You'd report directly to my team. Lisa stayed at the folder, speechless. Why me? She finally managed. After what I did. Because you've experienced both sides now. You made the mistake and you felt the consequences. That's powerful. He shrugged. Plus, you were honest when you could have made excuses. That counts for something. Lisa carefully opened the folder. Inside was a job description and a salary figure that made her eyes widen. This is very generous. It's also a lot of work, Mr. Harrison cautioned. You'd be sharing your story, yes, the embarrassing parts too, as a teaching tool. Some people might not be receptive. You'll face resistance. Lisa thought about what that would mean, traveling to different hotels, standing in front of staff, admitting her mistake over and over. It wouldn't be easy, but it would be meaningful. You don't have to decide right now, Mr. Harrison said, checking his watch. Take the day to think about it. Both options are on the table. Lisa closed the folder, her mind racing. Can I ask one question? He nodded. Why give me a second chance at all? Most people wouldn't. Mr. Harrison smiled slightly. Because everybody deserves one moment where they mess up completely and still get to turn things around. I got mine when I was younger. Maybe this is yours. 6 months later, Lisa stood in the training room of the Grandeur Hotel in Miami, facing 20 staff members who watched her with curious expressions. The Florida heat pressed against the windows, but inside, the air conditioning kept everything perfectly cool. So there I was, Lisa said, publicly humiliating a man because of how he was dressed, completely unaware that he owned the entire hotel chain. A few people chuckled nervously. It's funny now, sort of, but in that moment, I thought my career was over. A young bellhop raised his hand. And he offered you a better job instead of firing you. That's hard to believe. Trust me, I had the same thought, Lisa replied with a smile. But Mr. Harrison saw something that I didn't. He recognized that my mistake could help others learn. This was Lisa's 11th hotel visit in 6 months. What had started as a terrifying prospect, traveling to each Grandeur location to share her embarrassing story, had transformed into something unexpected, something meaningful. After the Miami session, Lisa checked her phone to find a message from Chen back at her home hotel. Training scores from Chicago just came in. Highest ratings yet. The big boss is impressed. Lisa smiled. The big boss still dressed in hoodies and basketball shorts whenever he visited his hotels. The difference was that now staff welcomed everyone with the same level of service, regardless of their appearance. As Lisa packed up her training materials, the hotel manager, Diane, entered the room. That was quite a session, Diane said. My staff can't stop talking about it. Hopefully in a good way, Lisa replied. In the best way. Our customer satisfaction scores have been climbing since your training program started. Whatever you're doing, it's working. Lisa had heard this at almost every hotel she visited. The numbers didn't lie. Complaints were down. Positive reviews were up, and staff reported feeling more confident in their interactions with all guests. Later that evening, Lisa sat on her hotel room balcony, looking out at the ocean. Her phone rang with a video call. It was Mr. Harrison. How was Miami? He asked when she answered. Hot, but the session went well. The staff was really engaged. Good to hear, he paused. I've been looking at the numbers across all our properties. The before and after is pretty remarkable. Lisa felt a surge of pride. What had begun as the worst day of her career had somehow led to this, making a real difference across an entire hotel chain. I've got news, Mr. Harrison continued. The board was so impressed with your program that they want to expand it, not just for new employees, but as regular refresher training for everyone. That's great, Lisa said. There's more. 3 other hotel chains have asked if we would license the training program to them. Lisa nearly dropped her phone. Seriously? Seriously. Turns out, judging people by their appearance is a common problem in the industry. He chuckled. Who knew? So what happens now? Lisa asked. Now we need to think bigger. I'm setting up a new division focused entirely on customer experience training, and I want you to lead it. Me? But I've only been doing this for 6 months. And in those 6 months, you've created the most successful training program we've ever had. Mr. Harrison's expression grew serious. Lisa, do you remember what I said when I offered you this job? She nodded. That everybody deserves one moment where they mess up completely and still get to turn things around. Exactly. And look what you've done with your moment. That night, as Lisa updated her family on the news, her sister asked a question that made her pause. Do you ever regret what happened that day? When you embarrassed him in front of everyone? Lisa thought about it carefully. I regret being unkind and judgmental, she said finally. But I can't regret where it led me. Sometimes the worst mistakes open doors you never knew existed. The next morning, Lisa woke up early and walked along the beach before her flight. As the waves rolled in and out, she thought about how quickly life could change. 6 months ago, she'd been a receptionist having the worst day of her career. Today, she was about to leave a division in a major company. All because she humiliated Big Shaq and then been humble enough to learn from it.